Hi everyone, here is with me today, once again, the amazing and lovely woman, Niara Terela Isla, whom I love very much because she's a very wise woman and she has a lot of experience to share. She was enlisted in the military and involved in unfortunate events that happened to her, and she wrote a book about this that I introduced to you already, and this is Facing the Shadows, Embracing the Light. And she tells all about her story, incredible stories, and how you heal. And it's a formidable, this book is a formidable guide to the discovery of our development, our awakening, our healing. Well, anyway, I really recommend her book, this one. But tonight, tonight we are going to talk about something very, very important. Niara, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, Niara and myself decided to do this video. Well, Niara contacted me and said that she had something very important to share that could be very useful to a lot of people. So tonight I'm going to let you, Niara, talk about the different ways of apprehending the positive ETs and the negative ETs, how to feel straight away if they are benevolent or malevolent. So I'm going to leave the floor to you and listen with great attention. Thank you.
All right. Well, feel free to jump in when you need to, or when you feel moved to do so. So there was actually a Facebook discussion about ET contact and whether humanity is ready for it and so on and so forth. And I think humanity needs to get ready for it. I think it's really vital to get ready for it. And yet we have all these people out that are disconnected from their feelings. They're disconnected from their gut sense. They're disconnected from their intuition. And how are they supposed to tell whether ETs that they see or interact with are good or bad? You know, because they could look wonderful and yet have a very bad vibe, and they could look really ugly and they could have a very good vibe, you know, kind of like in Lord of the Rings, where Frodo sees Strider for the first time, and he looked pretty dark and pretty foreboding and everything. And Frodo says, well, he says, he looks foul, but he feels fair to me. And I think an agent of the Dark Lord would probably look fair and feel foul. So that's just to kind of open up this discussion a little bit. But it's really important, at least for the people listening to this show, this discussion, then you can want what you take away from this discussion. And if you read my book, and especially the chapter Resonance, Dissonance, and Discernment, you're going to come away with a lot of material that you're going to have to take in and digest in the best way that you can. But you have all the equipment to do that, because that's how we're wired as human beings. We have all these different touches of who we are that were added by our extraterrestrial family. You know, whether we're Sirian or Lyran or Pleiadian or Andromedan or Arcturian, you know, there are so many different strands of DNA are within us. And we are their children. We are their genetic heritage. That's why we're so important on this planet. And yet, way back in the very beginning, when humanity came here and were building their civilizations, back around the time of Atlantis, even before Atlantis and Lemuria, there were negative ETs that came, and they took primeval people and they disconnected all that genetic material. And so it's still in there, it's just disconnected. And that's why we get this term that is kind of, we don't use it too much anymore, but we call it junk DNA. Well, there's all this DNA. We don't know what it does. You know, why do we have it? And everything. Well, because it's supposed to make us a whole functioning unit of humanity, person by person, who has all these skills and abilities intact. But the good news is we can relink it up, and we do it with the power of love. Because when we have love and we have good feelings and joy and happiness, you know, the wavelengths of those emotions pass through the DNA in our bodies, and they turn on more and more of those codons. So that's the path to reclaiming our genetic heritage. And it's very challenging to do right now, because I think fear porn is at some of the highest volume that it's been on this planet. I mean, it's been high for a long time, but they have it turned up super high right now with all the things that are going on, and you all know what's going on, so I don't think I need to repeat it. So it's a challenge now more than ever. But just remember that whatever the agendas are for throwing out all the fear, the one agenda that doesn't get discussed nearly enough is they want to make sure that we don't have the positive emotions we need to turn on all of our genetic heritage. Because once we do that, we escape the trap. We escape the trap. We dream a new existence into reality, and there it is. And they're left on the out in the cold, you know. And so this is really, it's powerful information. I remember when I was writing my book, and I wrote all the things about the gas companies suppressing UFO technology and about this and that. But when I started writing about consciousness and subjects like resonance, dissonance, and discernment, I used to get a little chill run up and down my spine, because I thought, of all the information I'm putting in this book, this is the one thing that they will deny that it has any existence whatsoever. But it's also the other thing that on the inside, they're going to be thinking, this is the most dangerous information that is being put out to people ever. And believe me, I went through hell after the book was published to try to shut me down. And I'm getting back up now. So anyway, when we talk about resonance, dissonance, and discernment, it was a day. Resonance, that's one of the things that has kind of come into the English language in the last decade or so. Oh, wow, I just heard this thing and it really resonates with me. It really resonates, you know. Now, where would something like that come from if we weren't starting to turn on those codons, you know? So it's resonance. Things resonate with us. Their vibration feels good to us. And we know when something doesn't feel good, you know, things come at us and we know it's lies and disinformation because of the feel of it. But to fine tune that feeling and keep fine tuning it and keep fine tuning it until you really have it, to really start to know it. And it's an ongoing process. You know, it's not something where maybe you can flip a switch like and the light is on. You have to just keep testing it and testing it. And one of the things that I used to say is things I used to do myself was I'd get up in the morning and say, okay, I need to make a trip to the grocery store. And I would immediately start thinking, you know, what's the best way, the quickest way to get to the grocery store, you know, and then the streets would just appear in my head, you know, the best way, that there was a block here and you want to go this way, and so on and so forth. You know, I used to do that quite often. Something else I used to do, and still can do with cell phones a little bit, but back when we had the regular other kinds of phones with receiver and landline and all that stuff, I used to know who was calling as soon as the phone would ring. And that's another way. I mean, some of you may be able to resonate with that or feel like you've had the same kind of thing. Even now when the cell phone rings, I probably 2 times out of 3 times know who it is when it rings before I even pick it up to see the caller ID. So it started, the thing about vibrations, it started to come into the human consciousness in the 60s and the 70s. There was a song by the Beach Boys, She's Given Me Good Vibrations. You know, it was kind of a song about that. And just let me take a look here in my book. I'm going to kind of refer to it a little bit. So what is resonance and what is dissonance? You know, if we had a classroom here, I would ask questions and I'd say, you know, who can tell me what resonance and dissonance really are? So we don't have a classroom here tonight, so, or today. So I have...
I can be the student.
Yes, okay. So I have 2 things here that help me demonstrate resonance and dissonance really well. This is a harmonica, and as the name implies, it creates harmonies. Okay, it takes notes, and the notes are put together in a very harmonious way. So we get, you know, something like this. So there's a harmony of all kinds of notes, but they all flow and fit together. But then when you take 2 notes where, like, say you have a D note, and then you have D sharp, which is the next key on the piano. There's like a white key that is the D, and then the key right next to it is a black key, and it's D sharp. And you put the 2 of them together. And so I'm going to play a D and a D sharp here on my pitch pipe, and then we'll understand dissonance. Okay,
yeah.
So
the body feels it.
It does, it does.
Yes.
And then this one again, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people feel it more sharply than others. So, but that's really the energy of that sound. So what I did was I demonstrated it musically. And the energy of that sound is what you hear, and then you actually feel it in your body. Now, the reason we feel so many things in our body is basically our bodies are 70 to 75% water. Okay, so if we were to set a glass of water on the counter and drum our fingers next to it, we would see the water kind of moving a little bit from the vibrations of our finger. And then also you could even sing notes at the water, and you could also see, maybe even more subtly, the sound that you're making in the vibration of the water. So that's it. We're big bags of water. That's a Star Trek term from an alien that was trying to describe humans with.
That's great.
Big bags of water. Because we have all this water, these things come in and they strike our being, and we feel resonance or dissonance. And as we get into this discussion a little more, I'll get into how sometimes a truth, which is resonant, gets by the mainstream media and the people that want to collude and keep us, you know, asleep. They will take a truth and then they will marry a lie to it. Yeah. And that's just like sugarcoating the lie to make people swallow it, because the truth rings clear. It's like Trump says, truth is a force of nature, you know. And so we have truth, and it's resonant energy, and then we have lies, which have a dissonant energy, but they'll try to put the 2 together, hoping that the truth will make you swallow the lie. And so it's kind of half and half. It's a tricky thing, but you know, I've watched it happen in the media for some time, and some of you listening might be able to pick that out yourselves, that they'll say something that's true, and then they'll say something that's off in left field, and it kind of leaves you feeling a little confused. Yeah. But for the people that are still indoctrinated and unaware and are not paying attention to their feelings, you know, they're really at risk of becoming even more deeply indoctrinated by the things that are being said to them. So let's see, my head is so full of things to talk about here. Let's see. So this is worth talking about here. How does discernment differ from judgment?
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
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 You would think one is the other, isn't it? No, it's not. Okay. Discernment is something that comes from our energy body. Discernment is a product of when we listen to the vibrations coming into us through sound or visual, or, you know, from the media, or from, you know, from good media and mockingbird media. You know, it's very different. You know, that incoming information, it strikes in here and you feel it as resonant or dissonant. And when you're feeling it as resonant or dissonant, then that's where discernment comes in. Judgment is a mental process. Judgment is something that comes from the years that you've lived and all the things you've learned and all the things you've experienced that have formed your belief systems about how the world really is or how it works and everything else like that. And when you have someone comes in and challenges that, then you feel judgment about it. But it's a process of the mind. It's much more a process of the mind than it is of the energy body. So that's the difference. And I will give you guys a link. If you don't have my book, you know, if you haven't bought it yet, I would recommend you buy it so that you can read it without having to sit with a bunch of EMFs. But if you want to get a free copy, which is really worth having, even if you have the book, because that way you can do a search through the book for things that you want to find, because it's a long book. It's 530 pages. It has not only my experiences in it, but it has my awakening process, and it has all the research to support my experiences. I wasn't going to come out and say crazy things like I was taken to the moon and had a bunch of terrible experiences there without giving the background to back that information up, you know, because I don't want anybody to think I'm a loony. Some people probably think I am anyway, but you know, they're their own reward. So anyway, so there's a ton of stuff in the book, not just my experiences, but all the research that I did to support them, all the looks at the social and political context in which people have experiences like the ones I've had, and other people have had similar experiences to me and even worse ones. And there is a deep state or a shadow government that is responsible for that, that feels like they can just take people and use them for their own purposes, especially if they can kind of do it hidden a little bit. So it's really, it's a very comprehensive book. And then part 3 is called Awakening. And that is about where I write about consciousness, about resonance, dissonance, and discernment, truth, freedom, and responsibility. You know, there's so many things in there. And incidentally, this really is the book of a patriot as much as it is a UFO contactee or an ET contactee, because I put the oaths of service for all public servants, or almost all, in there, so that people could clearly see that when people are not following their oath of service, then they become a domestic enemy of the United States of America and humanity. And so, you know, I put so much in there. There's just so much in there that I think people can get a lot of that from. Okay, so we talked a little bit about judgment, and let's see what else we got here.
Yeah, really recommend it. It will blow your mind for the people who haven't read it, honestly. And it resonates with different aspects of everybody's life. I noticed. There's so much in it. So much in it. So much.
Yeah, there's very much in there. A whole bunch more than just my story.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I had to back everything up with research. So there's another thing here that says a human being. This is really important because sometimes people have a hard time separating what their intuition or their gut sense is telling them from what their emotions are telling them.
Yes.
And so this is what I wrote about that. A human being is a community of many voices. There are many voices that speak in our minds telling us to do this and avoid that. How do we pick out the still small voice of our intuitive expanded awareness from this inner chorus? So basically what I was talking about here is the fact that minus our intuition, if we set that aside for a minute, we are going to be seeking things that make us happy and give us pleasure. And we're going to be avoiding things that we don't like, the things that scare us or make us angry and stuff like that. So we've got this whole avoidance and aversion thing going on, along with pleasure seeking and happiness seeking. So those are emotional. Those are emotional voices that live within us, and they can drag us all over the place. We'll be running away from this and trying to get to this, and it's really kind of a crazy making way to live. So I really highly recommend that you do the meditation practice, that you learn to go still within yourself so that you can learn to discern that still small voice. And when you're listening to it, sometimes it's going to tell you to do things that maybe you don't want to do because it sounds like something you want to avoid from the aversion side. And it might tell you something that you want to do, but lots of times my still small voice has challenged me to do things. And I thought of a metaphor earlier today where, I don't really like heights very much, but sometimes when I'm at a swimming pool, I'll go up on the high dive and I'll walk out to the end of the board way high over the pool. And I'll stand there and I'll just kind of look around and I'll take a few breaths. And then I'll go ahead and dive in. And it's an exhilarating experience to face into that apprehension that I have,
Wow. Wow.
So anyway, this community of voices, there's the body itself, if it's hurting, that's going to have a voice.
Yeah.
If it's feeling good, it's going to have a voice. Your emotions have all kinds of voices, everything on a spectrum of, I really want that, and I really hate that, and I don't want it. There's all kinds of things, but the still small voice, the intuitive voice, is the one that we want to tune into. And the best way you can do that is to learn to quiet the mind. And there is a third eye point in here. It's just between, a little above the eyebrows and back in the head a little bit. And when you can learn to put your attention on that point, it's kind of halfway between the outer skin here and the pineal gland in the center of the head. That's where the third eye is. It's actually halfway between. So if the pineal gland's here and your forehead skin is here, then the third eye point is there. Okay. And once you learn to do it, you can develop a feeling about when you have your attention correctly on the third eye point. It's almost like a marble rolling around in a pinball machine, and it finds the hole that it's supposed to fall into, it just falls in there, and there's a feeling that goes with that. That's just one metaphor, but I know that when I find that point in my spiritual practice, I have a lot easier time quieting the mind. If I'm not in that point, it's a little tougher. And in Buddhism, which I practiced Buddhist meditation for 8 years, they had this practice called naming. So whenever a distracting thought would come up, you would name it. Okay, well, arguing, feeling angry, you just name it and it would dismiss it, and you'd be able to get more still.
Mm.
So that's one way of doing it. Where was I going with this? I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, it's just learning to connect with that part of yourself, that essential part of yourself, which is a spark of God. Okay, it's soul. It's your soul. Okay, and when we're in contact with the soul through that third eye point, which I liken as a portal, you know.
It is.
It's like whenever I do my spiritual practice, I go to that point and I think, well, I don't know if anything stupendous is really going to happen when I do this, but I want to make the chance for it to happen. So I'll go to that point, and many times it doesn't happen. But I'll go to that point because to me, that point is the portal through which I can step when I get my mind quiet enough and the conditions are right. I can step through that portal and I can go to some amazing places through direct perception. It's like traveling without moving the body. It's really an amazing thing. And it also helps you get in touch with that still small voice that is the voice of the guiding light that you are, that is a spark of the creator itself. And that's the voice that usually will never steer you wrong. Now, there have been times in my life when I have followed that voice and have gotten myself into a mess. So did I go wrong? You know, at the time it seemed, why did I get this direction to do this? Because now everything's screwed up. But sometimes through that screw up, you learn so much that it was the right choice. So it's a tricky thing. And it's a journey that each one of you listening to this program is going to have to take on an individual basis. And if you're lucky, you'll have friends that will want to take the journey with you, and you can get together and have tea once a week and talk about how it's going for you and share your thoughts. You know, that's a nice thing to do. But it is a very individual journey. No one can take it for you. It's something you have to undertake for yourself. And let's see. Well, Elena, do you have anything that you'd like to add at this point?
Yes, I think I find it that I've learned not to resist when emotions get in the way, because when I experience contact throughout this portal, or even contact with beings that are around me in different densities, sometimes it's going to trigger a memory or an emotion. And first, I used to fight them to not interfere, but it was making things worse. The thing was growing. So just embracing it and letting it go. Okay, you're here. I acknowledge you're here, emotion. And I find it great what you said, to name them. Fantastic. Yeah, that's a good idea. And
Yeah.
I used to just, okay, you're here, I acknowledge you. Okay, you're here, now you can go. And the emotion was going. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult. I like when you speak about dissonance and resonance. How do you apply this when you meet an entity, when you have contact with either an entity or either an embodied, incarnated human or extraterrestrial? How do you use this dissonance, resonance? Can you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah. Well, when you meet another human being, it works too, you know.
Yeah.
But you really want to bring this whole thing into play if you meet an extraterrestrial. And it's very possible that many of us are going to meet extraterrestrials within the next decade, even sooner. So you have somebody standing in front of you, and they have blue skin and black hair, and they're wearing a different type of clothing than we usually see on Earth. And this is very different, okay? The mind is going to say, well, this is really different from what I'm used to. So what is it about this person? And you might start slipping into judgment a little bit. But what you need to do is just kind of let the feelings wash over you of this person and who they are, because the energetics of them is going to be right there in front of you as well. And if you're really willing to pick up on that, you're going to know whether this is someone who is a benevolent being who wishes you no harm, or you're going to know if there's some other agenda afoot in this individual, because they will have a certain energy. They will behave in a certain way, but more than just the behavior, it's the energy. It's the energy that you have to really pay attention to. And those of us who develop this kind of discernment and this understanding of resonance and dissonance, we're going to have to help the people that have not developed it, because they're going to be coming to terms with the fact that, wow, we now have extraterrestrials walking around on our planet, and they're going to think, I don't know if I can handle this. I mean, it's completely outside my religious paradigm. You know, what does this really mean? You know, am I really a child of God? Is this creature a child of God too? And they're going to just be filled with all kinds of stuff that's of the mind.
Very disturbing.
And you're going to have, yes, and you're going to have to help them get into their heart and into those feelings and into those energies of resonance and dissonance, and learn to perceive what's going on around them with that way. And there will be trial and error, you know, I mean, just accept it. There will be trial and error. But we all, each of us, have spirit guides that watch over us, and they will do our best to warn us if we're getting into a bad situation. And that's another reason, again, to develop that connection with your higher self, with your soul, so that you can listen to the information coming from that source. You know, it's really, really, it's very important. And yeah, so.
Yes. I met a few different types of extraterrestrials, and first, it is very disturbing. I spoke about that already. Well, you as well. You meet a few disturbing ones. The first thing is you judge, you try to associate to what you know. We have a database in the brain of different things we've known, we've seen in our lives, and we try to relate to it. The brain does that instantly. The thing is, we must, I believe we must try to not do that. Just take the fact, this guy has a blue skin, or maybe he has, I don't know, red eyes, orange hair, 6 arms. You know, I haven't met these ones, I just make it up. But just take the fact, okay, he looks like it, it or she, it looks like it. Now, what energy comes from it? I'm not going to apply my mind and my concept on this person and see through this filter. I'm just shutting everything down and just see what he sends to me. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, that's what you have to do. And this thing comes from me from Star Trek, or not Star Trek, Star Wars. The first Star Wars movie that they put out, where Obi-Wan Kenobi was teaching Luke about how to be a Jedi. And they were on the Millennium Falcon, and they was practicing with that ball that would float around, and then he had him fight it with a shield over his eyes so he couldn't see. And he said, well, with the shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight? And Obi-Wan said, your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
Oh, yes.
Stretch out your feelings. Stretch out with your feelings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Then that was an extraordinary moment. Yes, and it's, the eyes can deceive, but I think when you take this expression, it's by when he said the eyes can deceive you, it's your, in fact, the mind, how you interpret it, what you see also, you know, it's the judgment, you mentioned it. It's very, very difficult to shut the judgment.
It is difficult, and I would say don't even try. But if you develop yourself as a spiritual being, you're going to know when you're going into judgment, and you will be able to know, is it appropriate for me to go into a judgment right now? Or should I just be stretching out with my feelings? You know, you'll be able to make those kinds of decisions in yourself, because you'll be becoming a galactic human yourself. You know, if, like I said, if we can stay in touch with the things that bring us joy, the things where love, I mean, we're entering the Christmas season. That's a season of love and joy and giving for so many people. And those are the emotions that help us wake up, you know? So I mean, there's so much. I mean, I can't really distill everything into this one conversation. I just want to put some ideas out here and help people think about it a little more and think about who they really are and start asking themselves, who am I really, at the core of me, I mean, I can say I'm Niara Isla and I have this physical form and I like to do these kinds of activities and I don't like to do those kind of activities. Is that really who I am? No, it's not really who I am at the core. At the core, I'm that spark of God that someday will return home to the place where the Creator lives. I don't really like the word God. In my book, I use the conscious living and loving universe itself, or multiverse itself.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that.
That's more descriptive to me of the being that I feel like I'm part of and that I connect to, and especially when I'm out in nature. I connected to all this out in nature as a small child, and I still connect with it today in nature, because that's where you can feel the energies. Like if you look at a tree and you really look at it and you see it not as this thing with a trunk and leaves that's just kind of growing and whatever, you look at it and see it as a living being. You may feel appreciation coming back to you from that tree saying, wow, this person really sees me. And then you could also experience the wonder of getting a hug from the tree. And you know what that is? That's when the tree expands its energy field to encompass you. And then you feel this energy all around you that you know is coming from the tree. You just feel that it's coming from the tree. And you just feel so loved because you've seen the tree for what it truly is, for who it truly is. And, that's one thing to try too. And I actually developed a little song. When I would go on hikes, I developed a little song that I call my giveaway song to the spirits of play. I'll sing one verse of it, or one round of it. It goes, one with the sky, connected to the universe, one with the earth, my mother, I walk my path. One with the mountains, I share their strength. One with the birds and the animals, I share their gifts. Walking in balance, living with love. Walking in reverence, round the circle of life.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So when I'm in nature, I'll sing that 5 times. I'll sing it one time for each direction and then one time for the vertical direction of which I am, between heaven and earth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing you singing this, it was resonance.
Yes.
Harmony. To me, I had this phrase, sentence to my mind: the divine feminine resonating, singing through the sound, through your it was the voice of your heart, and you really channel a message and a connection. It's a connection song, isn't it? It's a resonance with.
Yeah. It's celebrating that I'm connected to all life on this planet, with the planet itself. Even the minerals and the rocks, they're alive too. They have their own consciousness. And that brings me to another point, because I'm thinking about crystals. Crystals is another part of this. We have our DNA is a crystalline structure, and it's like a transmitter and a receiver.
Yes.
Of all kinds of energies that are coming from the cosmos, that are coming from living things all around us, kind of like maybe again the Force in Star Wars. Get it connects it, we're connected to it, and it binds the universe together. That's very true.
It's the antenna.
And yeah, it is. So that crystalline structure of the DNA is also picking up the vibrations and vibrating in harmony, because the energy coming to you is resonance, or it's going, you know, if something dissonant is coming in, it's right in your DNA. And you know, you're not going to feel in one strand. I mean, there's a strand in every cell of your body, so it's going to be a full body experience, where the water in the body that surrounds the DNA in the body, and that the DNA has its life within, it works together. It works together. The crystalline form of the DNA works together with the water and the vibrational, the rich vibrational medium that is water.
Yes.
And
which is very important. I want to emphasize the water aspect. The few technology and energy devices I've been told about, some of them need water. Water is a necessary element to conduct the life force, the force, call it frail force. Water is an important element. So that's, so do we. We are generators. We are, yeah.
Yeah, there was a Dr. Masaru Emoto back years ago when we had the movie come out, What the Bleep Do You Know? They spent a lot of time on what would happen to water if certain energies were put into it. And the water would form a structure based on what energy was being put into it. You know, so love was a beautiful structure, and hatred was a very ugly structure. And they would take pictures, I think, of the water and the structure it would form with an electron microscope. I believe that's how they got the pictures. But you could see the difference in how the water was energized. If it was energized with something harmonious, you got a beautiful pattern. If it was energized with something dissonant, you got really ugly patterns.
Yes, and that's so important, because we are bombarded, the deep state has bombarded us with low frequency, on the frequency of fear, of, you know, all these bad things that create dissonance in ourselves and disconnect us from our power. And we always say, oh, radiate love and peace. It's not a new age thing, concept. It's science. It's higher science. We need to resonate on the frequency of love and peace. Find inner peace. I always say, find inner peace by healing your wounds first. Find inner peace, and then you reconnect to your power. You illustrate it very well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I said, if we had an actual classroom setting, I'm sure we could probably go on this subject for at least 3 hours with all the questions and discussion and things like that. We don't have that today. Might be interesting to make that available at some point.
What we can do, we can just broadcast this live and then do a Q&A segment. We can do that after that.
Yeah, and if people see the video, you can always ask questions in the comments.
Yes.
And collect those questions and try to answer some of them as well. But contact is coming eventually, and we want to be ready for it as we can be. And we want to also be helping people that haven't had our chances to learn about resonance, dissonance, and discernment, about who we truly are and the core of our being, which is a spark of God. You know, there's a lot of people that just are really disconnected from that. And it's because of the indoctrination that they've had throughout their lives, that for one reason, they just sucked it up and took it in, and it formed all their belief systems and their paradigm. That paradigm is going to shatter. and they're really going to need our help. And if we're alive on the planet today and we're conscious and aware to any degree, we chose to be here at this time to help other people through the paradigm shattering and the building of a new paradigm, the creation and the birth of a new paradigm. We're here for that purpose.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we came for that. And we must first attune ourselves to our true power, and then we are able to help this new paradigm to install the new program.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why this transhumanist movement is so dangerous, because if you let technology come into your body and start taking over certain functions, you will never be able to it's going to be extremely hard to break free of that, because the machine parts, the nanotechnology parts inside your body will not allow you to access that greater part of who you are.
Yes.
It'll try to shut you down in whatever way it can.
Yeah.
So that's the risk of all the stuff that is going on right now, that a lot of people are saying is part of transhumanism, trying to merge biological with machine. And yeah, it's severely limited. I mean, right now we are unlimited beings. We're only limited by how far our imagination can go. But when we marry the human physiology to machines, we're going to lose that, and it would be extremely hard to ever get it back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. So
Well, think of the Borg.
Borg.
Think of the Borg in Star Trek, and think of Seven of Nine. If you watched
Yes.
the Voyager series, when she starting to feel her emotions and everything, her cortical node shut her down, and the doctor found her unconscious. She was not allowed to do that, because that was one of the, feeling who the core of who she was, to feel love and feel things for another human being. That's an enemy feeling for the Borg. That's going to destroy their whole collective. They can't allow that, so they shut her down. So,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, that's why we must not have these things in us first of all.
Very important. Very, very important.
Yeah. So please.
Yeah.
Say something.
So let's see what time it is. We're kind of coming up on being an hour here.
Yes. So
I want to leave us with something really uplifting. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tune into the word freedom, and I'm going to sing one of my channeled singings of the energy of freedom. And I want to close our show with that. Okay? All right. So.
Everyone, stay in a high frequency. The voice of your heart, singing always the song of your soul. And this will guide you through this time and allow you to see clearly.
Yeah. And the song of your soul is the song of freedom. Always.
Thank you, Niara.
Thank you for having me. And much love to all of you that were listening today. Okay. Lots of love to you. And may many lights light your path.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Niara. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Hi, everyone. Tonight, Niara is back. This is the Q&A part 2 of our amazing interview yesterday, and you've all been smitten by her presence, her energy, her voice, her knowledge, her wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Niara.
Thanks for having me back.
So, Niara, last time, yesterday, you presented an amazing insight about what is the difference between resonance and dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
Could you remind us main lines of what you said, please?
Yeah, resonance is when we feel in harmony with something. You know, we hear something, we see something, and it resonates for us. We like the vibe. A lot of times we can tell if we're feeling the vibe, you know, in our body. It just, you know, especially it really comes powerful when you get goosebumps, or what I call spirit bumps. And that's when something really remarkable is happening for me. That's what I get. I get the spirit bumps. You know, it's like, oh, you know, something is just, it's like it's just passing through me, and with an energy signature, and it feels really good and really powerful. Excuse me a minute, I gotta clear my throat. So that's kind of, you know, that's kind of how I think of it. And then dissonance is when something feels yucky, you know, and I can do the musical demonstration again if you want me to share that.
Yes, that would be actually very helpful for those who have missed it. That'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So what I have here is a harmonica and a pitch pipe. Okay, this is a harmonica. It's a Goliath. My grandfather gave me one just like this that got stolen, so I went and bought another one that just like it. And then a pitch pipe, I got this here. So the harmonica is good because it takes many tones that are all in harmony with each other and produces a really wonderful sound that is exactly as harmony, whether you're doing minor key or major key. So if you blow on it, you get major key. If you inhale on it, then you get the minor key. So I'll show it, I'll just show the difference. So I have never been able to find a keyboard for these kinds of demonstrations that really works. What I need is a really small one, but one that has a lot of notes. So the harmonica is the next best thing. But basically what you're hearing is all kinds of notes here that all vibrate harmoniously together. And it creates a resonant frequency. And then when we have dissonance, that is two notes that are very close to each other. So if you were looking at a piano or an organ, you would see the white keys and you would see the black keys interspersed in that. And if you take two white keys that are at least one key apart, and you're going to get a harmony. And then if you take a white key and the black key right next to it, then you're going to get dissonance, because the one note, let's just say the white note is the true note, and then the black key represents, at least in the example, the note that is slightly off, and just slightly off enough that it creates dissonance with the true note. So here we're going to use D and D sharp, okay, together. That's what happens when you take the true note of D and then the little bit off of D sharp and put them together. You get this kind of thing. And when we have incoming information, when someone says things to us or we see something that really resonates, there's a feeling that goes through the body that's very harmonious. And when we see things that are dissonant, that don't feel good, that feels like something's off, lots of times you're not hearing it musically, you just feel it in your body, but you just feel like something's really off here. Something's really off. And you'll say, I can't put my finger on it, but something's off here and I need to just walk away from this situation. So that's kind of my musical demonstration of resonance and dissonance. And I do it because it very quickly gives you a feeling for what resonance will feel like when you hear it, and how it feels in your body when you hear it, and how dissonance feels when you hear it. And then if you're not hearing a sound that's dissonant, but you're feeling an energy that feels dissonant, similar to the sound, it helps you to more quickly identify, one from the other. Was that pretty clear?
Yeah, fantastic. Yes, I think it's a really, really good reminder of what you said yesterday, and it's so clear. I mean, we are confronted to resonance and to dissonance every day in many aspects of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And before I take questions from the audience, I'll have a personal question for a start,
Okay.
regarding to what you said last time about intuition as a tool to recognize resonance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, high good intentions in some people from dissonance, not good intentions, but hidden. So, and sometimes you say that the emotions can come in the way and blurry our intuition.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you advise to clear the emotions, to really be sure that our intuition is not spoiled by an interference?
Yeah, there's two things you need to do when you're feeling strong emotions that you're concerned it's going to interfere with your intuition, your gut sense, your instinct. One is, if you have the opportunity to go out and do some vigorous exercise, like if you have, like I have a gazelle here in the house, and I can get on that and start, back and forth with the arms and legs, and just really go at it fast and furious for about a few minutes, and then take time after that to breathe, and just breathe into my center and get myself calm. There's another way that you can do it, which is just breathing in and out, slowly, with a count. There's all kinds of breath techniques out there. One of the ones to balance the hemispheres of the brain is a pranic technique called alternate nostril breathing, and some of you guys have probably heard of it, where you just you breathe in one and here, and then out the other one. Okay, I don't know if I did that right. I'm looking at my picture and it's it's not working. I have to close my eyes. Okay, so in one nostril and then out the other. And then in that nostril and then out the other. And if that is confusing, you can just do left nostril breathing, where you block off the right and just breathe in and out through the left, and that can be very calming. Another thing you can do is sing a mantra like Om, or any tone. You could sing God if that meant something to you, or preferably a single syllable, because when you sing a note stretched out like a mantra, let's just say, Om. When you do that for a few minutes, what it's going to do is it's going to stimulate the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve in the body is it's one that attaches itself to all the major organ and nerve plexuses. So when you usually, if you think of a nerve being stimulated, it's not a relaxing experience. But when the vagus nerve is stimulated, it's relaxing itself, and it's because it's connected to all the major nerve plexuses. It's relaxing the whole body. You know, it's relaxing your liver and your lungs and your brain and your thalamus and pituitary glands in your head. And, you know, it's really working to do that together. So you can sing that for a few minutes. If you're with a crowd of people, then you might want to just go quiet and just breathe, you know, in and out slowly a few times. Because one thing I've learned about emotions, emotions affect how we breathe. So if you're angry, you're going to breathe a certain way. And maybe you can watch yourself next time you feel anger or grief or fear, or joy and happiness or love. You're going to be breathing differently for each one of those emotions. So you could say that the breath follows the emotional state. And then what you have to do is you have to turn that around, and you have to realize that if you decide that you're going to breathe a particular way, then your emotional state will begin to align itself to that mode of breathing. So it goes both ways. The breath follows the emotional state, and that's kind of the knee-jerk, unconscious, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, kind of statement like this. And then you're like, oh God, I'm really in a state here. I've got to do something about this. So I'm in a group of people, so I don't want to do this, you know, so I'm just going to do. And at first, the body will resist because the emotions are in play, but you just keep up with it. And you'll find that your emotional state will calm down to match what you're breathing. So those are some ways to calm the emotions down so that you can get a good read on what's going on around you. You know, what kind of energy is flowing around you right now? Is it resonant? Is it dissonant? Always remember that the body is 70 to 75, even maybe 80% water. And water registers vibrations in a very good way. So we're water. We're going to be feeling those vibrations all the time, you know, and we tune out a lot of it because it would be overwhelming if we were paying attention to it all the time. But when something powerful crosses our path that we need to pay attention to, then the first thing we're going to want to ask ourselves, does this feel resonant for me? Is it resonating in my body in a good way? Does it feel good? Kind of like the harmonica sound felt good? Or does it feel like that D and D sharp kind of clashing? You know, you have to ask yourself that. And we're confronted with so much information right now, and a lot of it is really crazy making. There's a thing going on in the media right now that I would call, you know, we could call it gaslighting. And that's from a movie, I think, that was called Gaslight, where there was a woman and her husband was trying to convince her that she was crazy, that she was losing her mind. And so he would, there was a gas light out in front of their house, and he would adjust it from time to time. And she would remark on it. She said, well, that thing is darker now. You know, it's not as bright as it used to be. he would say to her, no, it's just the same as it's always been. You know, something is wrong with the way you're perceiving reality. He was really trying to drive her crazy. Of course, in the movie, she finds this out and gets rid of him. But we're having a lot of that in our media.
Yeah.
Where we're told, like, when the riots and looting and all that stuff is happening, we're told that what we're seeing is not the truth. And, you know, that's very dissonant. You know, say, okay, well, I'm seeing violence and looting and people breaking windows and things like that, and I'm told that this is okay, that it's just people expressing themselves and in a way that, you know, is healthy for their emotions, and you're seeing looting and breaking and violence, you know. So that's a dissonance. You know, these are people that are trying to twist our minds to suit their agenda and
Yes.
the paradigm that they want us to accept. And we mustn't ever let go of what our core reality really is, and know what we're feeling and thinking, and be anchored in that center. Because these people are relentless. They will keep trying to do this to us until they either win, or we just all come awake as a group and say, no, 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 we're not going to do this.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we're the ones, we're the people. There's so many more of us than them. We are the ones that have the power. We're going to talk about that a little bit in this hour too.
Yes. Yes.
We are the power. We hold the power just by sheer numbers.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as individuals as well.
Yeah.
I have a question here, a very, very good question from Émilie Cloutier. Émilie Cloutier asks, how can we help children use or rely on their resonance to increase their discernment? Many young people are caught up in conditioning from the early school years and even before. What would you say?
Well, I think that what you have to do is you have to create a situation to teach children like that have been indoctrinated. That's what I call the conditioning. It's indoctrination. They're taught a certain reality paradigm, and then you want them to unlearn that. So what the best thing that you would do in that situation would be to create a learning situation for that child where they can base what's real around them in that moment, and they could describe what's real around them in that moment. And then you could kind of just play a game with them and say, well, yeah, you say that you're happy in this moment and you're feeling good, and you like these blue colors over here, and the sun is shining out there, and you like that. And then you would say to them, well, what if I was to tell you that the fact that you're feeling good right now, that's really a bad thing. And even that sun that you think is shining outside, it's not. It's you're wrong about what you're seeing. You know, and they're going to argue with you, and they're going to argue for the true reality that's there. Okay, then you can start moving from that, where they're looking at their actual physical reality around them, and then you presenting them with the other picture and having them argue with you. Then you're going to say, that's really good, because you stood up for your personal truth. The sun is shining. That color over there is really beautiful. And when you walked in here, you were feeling really happy. Might be a little agitated now, but you were feeling really happy. And that was what was true for you. So now what we need to do is look at some of the things you've learned in school, where you were told things were a certain way, and they really aren't that way. You know, this kind of thing is held up to you as something good, and this other thing is bad. You know, you have to move from, you have to anchor it in their personal experience of their immediate environment. And then once you get them clear about how people could argue with them about what they're really experiencing in their immediate environment, then move on and say, okay, ideas and concepts and history and things like that are the same thing. People frame it in different ways, and some people that want you to think a particular way because they want control over you. They're trying to teach you to think in certain ways that will increase their control over you. And I want you to be a free person. So we're gonna move from your personal experience to ideas, to concepts, to history, and just kind of move outward from there. And then always tell them it's really important for them to take stock of their own reality, their own feelings about what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and that is the reality that they need to work from. That's their core reality, and they need to work from there and not accept a whole bunch of stuff that people are throwing their way, who may have an agenda for them that is not in their best interest. Like critical race theory, if that's not in their best interest, and having children normalized to be sexual at too early of an age, that's definitely not in their own interest. That's like stealing their sexuality and dragging it through the dirt so that it may never be right for that child again. And I personally know what that's like. It's really a horrible thing to do to a person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I personally think that one of the most toxic things in this preconditioning at a early young age is competition. Be better, be slimmer, be more brighter, be this. It just enslaves the mind of the child. It goes the other way from reconnecting with the other power, So
well, there's healthy competition, which is reflected in good sportsmanship, where people shake hands and say, well, the best person won, and things like that. And then there's unhealthy competition, where you get enraged because you lose, or you gloat and lord over the other person because you won. That's not healthy. But so there's healthy and unhealthy expressions of the same kind of thing that we're talking about. Mm-hmm.
I have another very good question from Laiba Gul. When it comes to using your discernment in your daily life, what's the quickest way to know, and does that include using your third eye?
It can include using your third eye, but it may happen so quickly that you have trouble catching it at first, because the discernment process is happening, I believe, all the time. It's just we don't catch it quickly enough. So if there's something going on around us and we're not sure about it, the best thing to do is to take that deep breath, close your eyes, and just feel the energy. And it could be something to do with the third eye, or it may just be your body sense, the body being water, the body sense picking up the vibration and saying yes or no. And there's going to be a certain amount of trial and error. But if something really bad is going on around you, I think you're going to pick up on it pretty quickly and leave the situation as best you can. That's how I find it. Discernment, picking up on things. My body's picking up on things all the time. And it's when it's really important to make a decision about what's going on around me that I then really pay attention to the discernment and what my body and my gut sense is telling me to decide whether I'm going with this or that. And I had, a real interesting experience with that recently. I had someone call me Friday evening and tell me that I had won Publishers Clearinghouse giveaway. And he was talking a really good game, And for a while in the conversation, I was thinking to myself, well, you tend to be really suspicious of people like this, and I think that's a really good thing. But what if this really is true, and you really are going to win $5,000 a week for life, and you're just your innate suspicion is getting in the way? So I talked with him for a while, but then the dissonant feeling kept going up and up and up and up and up. And finally, I knew that it was bullshit. Excuse my French. Excuse my language.
I say excuse my French myself so many times.
I'm sorry.
So please go. It's so funny. I love it.
Okay. So anyway, that was an instance where I wasn't in any immediate physical danger. I was only in danger of being, you know, fooled into a way that I might have lost some money. So that was the danger that was there. And I was kind of checking myself, because when people call me out of the blue and they have something to sell me, it's like, right back, you know. And but I listened for a little bit, because I thought, I don't want my inherent suspicion of people that just call me willy-nilly to get in the way of what's going on here, and what if. But the longer I listened, the stronger the dissonance became, until finally I just said, that's it. You know, if somebody shows up in front of my house tomorrow morning with a Mercedes-Benz, then I'll pay attention that this might be a real thing. Until then, goodbye and good night, you know. And then I blocked the phone number, and I went and looked online on the Publishers Clearinghouse website, and I said, if you really win, what happens, you know? And they said, usually they show up at your house and surprise you with the checks and the car and all that stuff. So you're just completely surprised. You're not called ahead of time. And if they don't do it that way, they send you something via FedEx, like an overnight FedEx, saying that you won, and to contact them, you know, about something. So I kind of, it was a good learning experience. It was a good learning experience, but, you know, there was no physical danger. So I felt comfortable with the initial dissonance, just to listen to what was really actually happening. And then the dissonance just got worse and worse and worse, especially when the guy kept telling me what a good Christian he was over and over again, you know, and that, you know, the more he said that, the bigger red flag went up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Does that help you, Liba?
I think yes. I there's no I don't see any response, but I think it was, to my sense, it was a perfect answer.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in immediate physical danger, you're probably going to know it. You know, if something just feels off, you know, just really pay attention to the feeling. And I would give this rule, okay? I know we have another question here. I would give this rule: if in doubt, don't. Okay?
I love it.
If in doubt, don't do it. You can always back up. If it's a good opportunity, you can always get it again. But if something feels off to you in the slightest degree, then don't proceed. Get away.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, and you've lived through experiences and stuff that, man, people listen to this woman. If she says that, she knows what she knows what she's talking about. She knows.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know, I haven't walked in your shoes, but in my humble little shoes, sometimes I receive emails or messages, questions. Do you think I should follow this person? I should believe this person? I said, I do not have the answer for you. But if you have a doubt, if you ask the question, you already have the answer. You know?
Yeah. Usually, I believe this, that the universe gives us wonderful opportunities sometime. If they don't come in a form that feels good to you, back off. If the universe wants you to take advantage of a particular opportunity, it will come again.
Yeah.
And it'll come again in a way that you can accept.
Absolutely. Hubs ask, well, that's totally in the line of what you were just saying. Once you can see and hear with your heart, you have mastered discernment. The eyes can be tricked in this 3D physical world.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned yesterday a Star Wars quote from Obi-Wan Kenobi. Can you tell a bit about this,
Obi-Wan,
please?
you know,
Yes.
because he put this shield over his eyes on the Millennium Falcon in the first movie, just Star Wars. And Luke was saying, well, with the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight? And Obi-Wan says, your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them. And, you know, that it's really tricky, because if somebody's coming at you like with this wonderful Publishers Clearinghouse given, I mean, you think, you know, the emotional side of me could have said, oh, this is wonderful. I really want to win this. I would love to have all this money. I would love to be able to pay off my house and everything else like that. And if I had gotten carried away with the emotions of wanting in that situation, I might have found myself in a position where I would lose anywhere from $200 or more, you know, but the dissonance of the situation just kept increasing throughout the whole phone call. And, but, you know, I mean, the images that were being put in front of me of winning the car, of having all this money, you know, those were images that, yeah, you like that idea. It could change your life. You want to move towards that. And yet something inside me was saying, you know, like people say, too good to be true. And I just, what I did was, it's like, well, when in doubt, don't. So I backed out of the situation. And then I went on the Publishers Clearinghouse website, where they warn people about scams like that. And they said the kind of things that these people will do. And that's exactly what I had experienced. So I was in doubt, so I didn't. And I backed away and I did my research to try to find out what was actually going on. And what was actually going on was what I felt in my gut was going on. So my gut was telling me right. And I wasn't being too suspicious. I was being just exactly the right amount of suspicious. And
It's very important, yeah.
the eyes can be tricked. Have any of you seen the, I saw one the other day with a shark, a great white shark. It was amazing. But there's one that I've seen on YouTube, and it's a holographic whale in a gymnasium, and the whale is jumping up out of the ocean right in the gymnasium in front of all these kids sitting in bleachers.
Oh, yes. Oh,
And
my
it's
gosh.
so real, you know, that everybody's saying,
Yes.
oh, you know, and they're backing up because it looks like water splashing at them, but it's all a hologram. There's no water and there's no whale, but it looks so real.
Yes.
And this is what they talked about with Project Bluebeam.
Yes.
You know, they could put things in the sky and make it look so real that you would think it's really happening. So in that case, your eyes cannot be trusted. You have to ask yourself what's really going on. It's like with 9/11. Did planes really hit that tower? Or were they holographic planes and then explosions going off from explosives that were set? You know, and we know, I remember when I saw 9/11 happening and I saw the Twin Towers falling on TV, I had lived in Las Vegas for a number of years, and I had seen controlled demolitions when they dynamite an old casino to make way to build a new one. And they set the charges just so that the building comes straight down on its foundation. It doesn't fall this way, it doesn't fall that way, it doesn't do anything. It just comes straight down on its foundation. And that's what those Twin Towers did. And so did Building 7. And yet they tried to tell us that a plane crashed into the building. If a plane had crashed into the building, it all would have happened very differently. So the fact that your eyes can be tricked is very true. Lots of times what we see with our eyes is true, but there are times when we could be tricked. One of the other things where we could be tricked, I hope this is not going to happen because it's been talked about so much, it would be really stupid for them to try this. But if they tried a fake alien invasion, you know, there are captured and back engineered craft that the dark side has, and they could really fake an alien invasion really, really well. And they have directed energy weapons to make it look really real. They could make it look really real, and it wouldn't even have to be Project Bluebeam. It would be the craft that they have themselves. Now, this is what I personally think. I think, you know, since the Galactic Federation and our ET families out there in space have been told for so long, no, you can't meet the people right yet. They're just not ready. You know, we have to prepare them, you know, like we've been doing with movies and TV shows and everything else. Like, they have to be prepared more. You can't just come down and introduce yourself, you know. So if they were to pull a false flag alien invasion, then they would be making their own disclosure that, hey, ETs are real and they're attacking right now, and they're hitting New York City with energy weapons, and people are getting killed. You know, it's a real false flag. People will be getting killed for sure. But to me, if the Galactic Federation is holding back because the people aren't ready, what would at that point, when our own government, our own shadow government, our own deep state is pulling a false flag alien invasion, what's to stop the Galactic Federation from flying in, stopping that false flag alien invasion and stopping it in its tracks really quickly, and then landing and introducing themselves to the people of Earth?
Oh yes, I think that's something they would do, because that is direct infringing of the law, and of, you know, not showing yourselves, not showing technology. Once the enemy has done it, well, that's it. It's done. So I mean,
Yeah,
they come in, and
there's nothing to
yeah,
hold it back, you know.
it's not going to hold them back, and the enemy knows it. You know,
Yeah, that's why
and
it would really, really stupid idea for them to try that.
yes, that's why also I think they won't do it, because they know that if they infringe they break the gate, and they do that, then the Galactic Federation, the big artillery, just steps in, and it's done in minutes. And because that won't be the fleets of the reptilians or the Greys, who are just now, they are being eliminated. That would be just the retro-engineered crafts, Earth-made, and piloted by Earth people, who are not as good as the Federation's pilots, for instance. You know, things like this, or
Right.
even just holograms. I mean, they wouldn't last 5 minutes. So I think that's also something that holds them back to do that.
Yeah. I was looking at something the other day, was something about this new weapon that, you know, we're hearing about, called rods of God. And they said it would cost millions of dollars to place just one of those rods of God on an orbital platform where it could be dropped on the Earth. And I was kind of smiling to myself, and I said, there are craft that the general public doesn't know that we have, that could put those tungsten rods in place very quickly and with very little expense. You know, so I kind of smiled to myself when I heard that, because I thought, well, maybe, yes, it might cost millions of dollars to do it with solid jet fuels and, you know, so on and so forth. But there are other ways, and I know there are other ways, and so do you, Elena.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And maybe the fact to say, oh, it would cost millions of dollars. No, it wouldn't, and the money would be put somewhere else. You know,
Right.
can be that one,
Yeah.
I suppose. So I have another question. I personally do not know what it's about, but maybe you do. From James B. My question for Niara is: have you heard of the CDT plates, Cloister Dora Teura plates? And if so, what are your thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't heard of that. I have not heard of the CDT plates.
Okay. I'm going to fish for another one.
I'll look it up, though.
I have one question here from Nita. What is the difference in music binary beats with a certain hertz and music binary beats with new wave instead of hertz? And would you know?
Well, I don't really know the answer to this question, but again, with music, I think it's very easy to tell if it feels good or not. And this gets tricky because there's certain things that can be done with sound and music that could make you feel euphoric, which is kind of an out of balance, joyful emotional state. Let's just say that. Kind of like being high. And it could feel good, but it's an out of balance state where you'd have to really be careful of what's going on around you to make sure you weren't being lured into a trap. I'm not sure about new wave. That's not something I've heard of besides Hertz. And binary beats. The first thing I think about with the binary beats is having one tone played in one ear and another tone played in the other ear, and then it causes a synchronization of brain waves. But that can be something that can be done for a good purpose, and that's something that also could be done for a bad purpose, for a mind control purpose. And there are a lot of mind control techniques out there. I don't even know them all, but I know enough that you have to be really careful about something that seems to feel good. You have to be constantly checking in with yourself about everything else in the environment besides that thing that you're hearing. You have to be really careful. Okay, so personally, I would stay away from things that mess with my brain waves.
Yeah.
Unless I'm positive they come from a good source.
Yeah, confusion is always, it's like doubt if there's confusion.
Yeah.
You know. What you told about your experience of the lad saying, "Oh, I'm a good Christian. I'm a good Christian." The discernment, it's that as well. And I have another question. Well, it's a comment from Cynthia. She says something interesting. The words that come from psychopaths usually include their claims to be spiritual and loving. That's a trap.
It is. It's very much a trap. And I don't want to say it. I had a dream years and years ago. I had a dream about something really dark and really ugly chasing me through the whole dream. And I was trying to get away from it. And I found myself at a Bible study group. And the group was just ending. I came in just at the end, and the group was just ending. And as it was ending, and everybody was leaving, I talked to the guy that had been in charge of it. And I said, there's this thing following me. I can't see it. I can just sense it. But it's really dark and it's really evil and it's trying to get control of me. And he says, well, that's cool. I understand what you're up against here and I can really help you. And he walked towards me in the dream and he had this really hypnotic look in his eyes. And he was putting his eyes in my eyes with this hypnotic look. And the closer he got to me, the more I felt like just wanting to scream inside because the energy of this person was so dissonant. It was so dark and ugly, even though he'd been doing a Bible study class, you know, so he got certain closeness to me and I bolted and ran out of his place and left. And then I kept chasing through the dream. And ultimately what happened was I went to a friend of mine's house who I did trust. And I was banging on his door because trying to get up the stairs to his doorway was like fighting a hurricane because this thing was getting a hold of me. And I banged on the door. And as soon as he opened the door, I woke up in my bed. And the really weird thing about this experience was whatever had been chasing me through the dream was in the room with me. And I think it was engineering the dream. And it was over by the window and I could see the window through it. So it had like a ghost-like appearance. It was one of those shadow beings that they describe in UFO literature. And the feeling coming from it was just horrendous. You know, think about this pitch pipe thing that I blew and think about it times like 100. And it was like, you know, and I could hardly move. I was so scared, you know, and then I thought, you know, I think I know how to make it go away. I just have to get up, make myself get up and go get this thing in the other room and I'll be able to make it go away. And so I did that, and then it was gone. And then the interesting thing was, I saw 3 figures of light on the other side of the room, and they had been observing me to see how I would respond to this situation. And the feeling coming, yes, the feeling coming from them was as good and beautiful as the feeling had been bad coming from this shadow entity. And I felt like I had just passed a test. And then later, many, many, many years later, I realized that if I had not passed that test, if I had just stayed afraid and frozen in my bed until the experience ended, or until God knows what happened, that I wouldn't have gone in the military, and I wouldn't have had the experiences that I had. And I suppose that would have been a good thing, but I think I was intended to have the life that I've had, because it was my destiny to write the book and bring that stuff out for people and let people know that this really happens. And not only just to tell my experience, but to give all the background of the kind of world and society and culture that we live in, including our governments and our shadow governments that do things without our knowledge that can harm us. You know, it was my thing in this lifetime to do that, to write that book. And I wouldn't go back and change anything. You know, I'm just glad that I had the guidance that I had the spirit guides that I had, and there was somebody always looking over me and watching out for me, and I knew that. And here I still am, you know, and I'm still, the most important message I can bring is one of consciousness, and what consciousness can really do for us. It can change everything. It can change everything, and we don't have to wait for President Trump to come back or anything. We just have to direct our consciousness in ways that we know are good. And we can use the very fear porn that they parade in front of us all the time and switch it around. So if you see something that's really horrible going on out there, give yourself a few minutes to just feel your feelings about it. Well, I feel really angry about this. I just feel sick about it. I feel so terribly grief-ridden because of what is happening to children in this world. Just give yourself a minute to feel your real feelings about it, you know, your real emotions, you know, sadness, anger, rage, grief, whatever it is. Just feel it for a few minutes, and then think to yourself, if I could make the world over in the way that I want it to be, how would I change this situation? What would I want to see in place of this situation that's in resonance and in alignment with my heart and my conscience and my spirituality? And then you put that picture in front of your mind's eye on the inner, and then you feel the emotions that you would feel if that's true. Because the emotions they're really important. I mean, yes, they can get in our way, but when we use them with visioning and intention, it's like you've built a circuit board and you want it to work this way. This is the way the vision is supposed to work. But without the energy of the emotional state bringing it alive, the vision it doesn't have the power to really move out there. So that's the thing about emotions. We were created to have these emotions and learn to bring them under control, kind of like a team of wild horses. And when we have them under our control, not in a bad way, but in a good way, to use them the way I believe that our star family intends us to use them, is to infuse our vision of the world that we want to live in from our heart and from our consciousness, and build that world by charging that vision with our positive emotions of love and joy. And we can do this together. I mean, star seeds, we're scattered across the entire globe. You know, a lot of us, you know, are lucky if we have 1 or 2 other ones that live in the same community with us. You know, but how can we connect up with all the ones across the world by doing this practice, by taking and looking at the things that are put in front of us that are meant to scare us and demoralize us and everything else like that, feeling our feelings about it for a minute, because you don't want to hide from your feelings. You don't want to repress. Repression is not good. Let yourself feel your feelings about it for a few minutes. And then what would you like to see in its place? What would your heart want to see in its place? What would the goodness of who you are want to see in its place? And create that vision, and then charge it with the love and joy that you would feel if you were to see that. And if everybody, all the starseeds across the whole world, all people across the world would just do this, we could change this planet. We can change it. Because it's unity is about love. And love is a uniting force. Powerful like nothing else. People don't unite in hate. They don't unite in grief or rage or, feeling sickened or anything else. Like, those are all divisive emotions. Unified humanity is one of love, where we're all in resonance with the same vision of a beautiful planet where people are loved and cared for, and they love each other, and they don't make divisions of race or color. We don't even think about race or color of skin anymore, because we're all just one human family. It doesn't matter what color we are, So unity and love, those are the things. And if you watch the movie Above Majestic, I said it at the end of that movie as well. I said, love is the unifying force. We want to be a unified collective. But when we're scattered across the globe like this, and we can't always gather together for an online super meditation to end world whatever. Okay, moment by moment, we take the things that we see in front of us that we don't like, and we completely turn it around into something that we do want, and we charge it with our beautiful and positive, loving emotion.
Wonderful. Wow. You are an alchemist, because you did this alchemy on yourself with what you went through in your life, with your own life. Going in through the darkness and transmuting it into life within yourself. Yesterday you sang, and you gave us channeled frequencies and power through your singing. But I I think I'm not the only one to think that even it's not only when you sing, it's also when you speak, because you are channeling this wisdom with your own self, your higher self. It's also the way you speak, and it's very
well, to be indoctrinated in this world is kind of like trying to get people to get undoctrinated. It's like asking a fish to start questioning the water that it swam in its whole life. That it's breathed it through its gills its whole life. And it's really hard for them. But like I said, and I think in the other show, is when the paradigms begin to shatter for the people who have been indoctrinated, we really need to be there for them and help them build a new paradigm. And they're going to be looking for one, and with your heart and your conscience and your love, help them build a wonderful one. One that we can all feel good about living in.
Yes. Co-creators, we all are.
Yeah. I mean, my most important message is not, woman, sexually assaulted in a Black Ops project and whatever, that's not my message. That was a shamanic awakening for my real message, which is what we can do with consciousness. And if we just do it one person at a time, one vision at a time, and a whole bunch of people around the world do it, each of them one at a time, we can change the face of this planet and how things are done.
This is so true. I will ask maybe this last question. It's a very appropriate and crucial question asked by a lady named Kara. How do we raise our consciousness?
Mhm. It's kind of the key to that is really in what I was just saying about turning it around, seeing the thing that's dragging you down into the negative emotions, and then building that vision in your head, and then infusing it with your positive, loving, emotional energy. That's a really wonderful way to raise consciousness. Another way is meditation or contemplation. And contemplation is a little different. It's more of an active form of meditation. In true meditation, which I did for 8 years, is a Vipassana meditation, which is Buddhist. You just try to quiet the mind, and that's a really good trick, quieting the mind. So, but in a contemplation, you take like a seed thought, like God loves me, and you just keep that thought in your mind. Or one of my favorite ones is eternity is in this very moment. And I will think that. And the other thing you want to do, this is where the third eye does come into play with raising consciousness, because third eye, as I said in the other show, it's right about here in the middle, and it's not at the pineal gland, but it's kind of halfway between this point and the pineal gland behind. So it's like in the head, like right around here. Pineal gland would be back here. The third eye point is here. The physical eyes are up here. And so how do you know when you're in the third eye spot? How do you know when you found that sweet spot, so to speak? For me, when I close my eyes and I put my mind on that place, my mind immediately goes a little quieter than it is when it's not focused in that place. So that's one of the ways to just kind of play with that, is like when you know that you've got it in that one spot right in the middle of the head. I should have a drawing, and then I could probably really illustrate it. But you just put your thoughts there. Your mind will be a little quieter. And then there's this force in the world, because we live in a world of duality. There's always the satanic energies that want to pull us apart, and they don't want us to raise our consciousness. They want us to keep our consciousness under their control. So there's going to be all kinds of distracting thoughts. But if you have that seed, like eternity is in this very moment, and I'm sitting there and I'm contemplating on that, eternity is in this very moment. On the in-breath and on the out-breath, the same thing. Or there's another one that's really good, which is my reality is nothing less than my choices and my thoughts made visible. So it's that quiet time practice that you can use to raise your consciousness. But I've got to warn you that there's the other force, that the monkey mind that they call in meditation. It's going to constantly throw a million things up to distract you from being focused. And it is a discipline in and of itself to work with that to the point where you can keep your mind on your seed thought, which is an uplifting thought. So that's one way to raise your consciousness. Also, doing acts of kindness for other people, that will raise your consciousness, because they'll feel good and happy that you did that for them, that you stepped forward, maybe when they were having a dark day, and maybe gave them a beautiful smile or a hug. Or maybe it's somebody that's panhandling, and it's somebody you feel like, wow, I think this person really, really does need $5, and not just to go get a bottle of booze, and you give that $5, and that person smiles at you and thinks, thanks so much. This means a meal to me, and I haven't had a meal in 2 days. You do those kinds of acts of kindness for people, it's going to raise your consciousness. It absolutely will. And it'll raise the other person's consciousness as well. Now, not every panhandler is somebody you should hand money to, okay? But there are those ones that come along where You just feel from your heart to theirs that this is the right time to hand money to a person. You know, and that's just one thing. I mean, after 9/11 happened, I remember standing in a line at Starbucks that was in the grocery store, not a Starbucks shop. And all these people were standing in line waiting to get whatever they were going to get. And I looked around at all of them and I thought, you know, what if suddenly something was to happen here and all these people would be gone? All of them would be wiped out and killed, like what happened in 9/11 in New York City. And I looked at each person a lot differently. And at that moment, I realized that every time I have eye contact with a person, I have a choice where I can smile at them, I could say something nice, and uplift them just a little bit. And when I uplift them just a little bit, I uplift me a little bit too. So
Yes.
everybody wins. Everybody
Yes.
wins. And I do that every chance I get to appreciate someone for something they're doing for me, even if it's just a small thing. I do it. Like the other day at the place I have breakfast and lunch at a lot, you know, they've been away. They've been there for us through the lockdowns and everything else like that. And I looked at the cashier and I said to her, I said, you know, people don't say this to you guys enough, but I really appreciate how you've been here for us for the past 2 years with your wonderful food and your happy attitudes and your good service. I just want you to know I really appreciate you and I love you for giving us that, this whole community. And she just lit up. You know, she was just so happy to hear that. You know, that raises your consciousness for sure.
Oh my God, yes, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, for some people, your mission is maybe not to lead revolutions or, you know, be a leader on whatever social media. Sometimes your life mission, being as important, is just to work in a shop and offering every day your smile and your kindness to people.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
that may change few lives. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know, you know, and that's very important.
Yeah. I mean, people can do big, important things to change the world, but doing all these little
Yeah.
things, these little appreciations that you scatter, you know, throughout your life as you walk through it, that change people's lives, change their perception, change their heart in a good way. I mean, talk about changing the world, one
Yeah.
heart at a time, and yours too.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Niara, thank you so much. I mean, we've hit the hour, and I would. A lot of people in the chat are stressing. Oh, is she going to give a song? Yes, she will. Don't worry. Calm down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say everything I want to say to close, and then afterwards I will leave the sound to you. And if you want to, if you're willing to, they're begging for it,
Okay.
channel a song or whatever you want to offer with your heart. If you're okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Oh,
Okay.
lovely. I would enjoy that too. So
All right.
before I leave it to you, I want to remind everyone, um, facing the shadow, embracing the light. This is Niara's book, so it's a big book. You have all her life story and how she turned these experiences in something beautiful, and you have all her spiritual guidance in it as well. So I really recommend this book. Niara, thank you so much, and we will do that again if you
Mm-hmm.
don't mind, because that's really helpful for a lot of us.
Okay. All right. Well, thank
And
you. I just kind of tune into what wants to happen here.
thank you. Namaste.
Yeah. Many blessings to each one of you.